So we've just finished the podcast with Paul Smith, the boxer, not the designer. And we have got 10 questions here that we've been asking or been sent in across various platforms. So I'm just going to start going through the Q&A one by one. Thanks for doing this again. First question is from Adam White, and he has asked, is helping your athletes deal with the added pressures of social media as much a modern part of boxing as it seems to be in other sports like football? And if so, how do you go about it? And how do you go about it?
I can only really speak for myself and my brothers. For me, it's a double-edged sword. It's so many positives, but there's equally, if not more, negatives. And to use, again, a name drop, and to use the advice that I was given was off Jamie Carragher. And it was, what are you doing going on the internet? Why are you going on the internet and trying to interact with people when you don't know who they are? They're just going to give you a stick. Don't go on it, don't entertain anyone. And then 2 years later, he's on Twitter and he loves it. I'd suggest to anyone doing it, just use it when you need it. Use it for, the right way. Unfortunately, the advice would be don't engage too much, because for every 5 good people, there's 10 idiots.
Christian off Twitter has asked, do the power punches with 10-ounce gloves hurt as much as we'd expect? You rarely see a boxer wince or show pain unless they're out of the depth.
Good question, but again, it sounds daft and sounds like I'm being brave. It doesn't really hurt because there's that much adrenaline, and it's fight night, and you're sort of accustomed to it, and you condition your body to take punches by just taking punches. And if you haven't took one for a while, which I haven't now, my little lad walks past me and gives me a little jab, you can feel it a lot more than what I could 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So it doesn't hurt as much, no, but it hurts. It always will hurt, but it sounds daft. It's not as much as you'd expect because of the adrenaline. If there was no adrenaline, they definitely hurt, definitely.
The Shilster on Twitter asked, growing up, who was seen as the best prospect in the family in boxing terms? And did the fights, brotherly fights, always go with age? Did you always beat Stephen? Did he always beat Liam, beat Callum, etc.? No,
it was always different. And Stephen being short sort of made it interesting. I'm not putting him down, saying he's only 5'7", but he was smaller when he was younger growing up. We only had like one pair of gloves most of the time, then we'd get two, obviously, and I'm not crying poverty or playing the council estate card and that. We'd literally, my mum would go to bingo, my dad would be out working the doors or be out on the booze or whatever he was, or be out, just not in, and we'd push the couches back, we'd move the rug, and we'd put one glove on each, toss up for the right hand, and the tea towel went round the left hand at first, and we just, one a referee, one a judge, and we just go for it and knock shite out of each other, and that's how we learned. But it used to usually be Stephen, Liam and Callum all mixing in, and me with Stephen, and sometimes me with Liam, but I was a little bit older. But great days going up and good fights. And the best prospect out of all of us probably was Stephen, because of how good he was as an amateur. He was brilliant as an amateur, and he won everything. And Swifty by name, Swifty by nature, he was just fast and classy and skillful, and had a great career, both amateur and professional.
Paul Cockram on Twitter, we talk about this in the podcast, but he asked, was Andre Ward as good in the ring as he looks? Yeah, he was. He was really good, and more importantly, effective. What he did very well. His weaknesses were few and far between. He was a class fighter, and someone who, looking back now, it was a privilege being in the ring with someone as good and as successful. You could tell there was an extra level to him than everybody else. Out there on his own for me, yeah, definitely. Yeah. On his own, as in that weight division thereabout at that time. And people will talk now about like imaginary fights. If he was to fight someone like Canelo now, if he was to ever fight someone like Mayweather, if he was ever to come back and fight some of the greats at different weights, and that's why we're speaking about him in that tone, because he is up there. Yeah. Sean Steve on Twitter has asked, why didn't any of the brothers go for the European title? Good question. I'm sure Stephen was offered it once. What about you? I was offered it, I think, for 15 grand. And there was not a chance on earth I was fighting anyone for that at the time. Yeah. It's not like 15 grand's not a lot of money. Yeah. It is, but by the time European title fight for £15,000, by the time I paid everything out, I'd probably walk away with 4 or 5 grand or something. After you paid everything that you needed. But it wasn't even a subject to talk about at the time. It was a flat no. But Stephen, I'm sure Stephen was the closest to it, but it wasn't through avoiding it. It was just through lack of being offered it. And sometimes
fighters, as I say, I'm watching fighters nowadays and they're like, I can't wait to get top 10 in the WBO or WBC because I'll get a world title fight, and they haven't won a British title. You know, you should win the titles on the way in to try and do the old traditional route of British, Commonwealth, European, then the world title. That's the traditional route, or British and then go try and get up there on a world level then.
Russell Feingold on Instagram. What's the best way to not take things personally and use criticism to drive you on?
Fair bit of practice and trying to make your skin thick. Criticism, for me, you take it a lot more constructively if it's said in the right tone, in the right way, or spelt in the right way, or written out in the right way from the right people. With all due respect, I'm not going to go and criticise a surgeon on doing an operation a certain way because I don't know anything about it. And when you see fighters, you know, there's memes everywhere, isn't there? You know, I threw my jab differently, and it's fellas on the couch. It depends on, I'm not trying to sound big-headed, but it depends on the type of person that's telling you. If you know that the person's a boxer and has experienced what you're experienced, then you can listen to that opinion more, in my opinion. But, you know, it's always sort of ruffled my feathers a bit where I sit and have a conversation with a professional footballer. I can't tell him how to strike a ball. I can't strike a ball properly. I'm terrible at football. And I love the game and I watch it inside out, and I've been going to watch Liverpool since I've been 5 years of age. I'm experienced in watching the matches and I can read a good game, but I can't tell them how to strike a ball because I can't do it. So sometimes criticism it's the last thing you want. You're going on social media to try and interact with people and just, you know, have a glance through the news or whatever you're using it for, and you've got fellas who've got, like, you know, made up names and two followers telling you that the way you throw a right hand or tactics for certain fights were wrong, when you know the tactics were spot on, they just didn't go to plan or this or that. It's hard. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. You've got to learn how to take it, and sometimes you've got to learn how to ignore it. Sometimes you take it on board and think, you know what, they've got a point there. Yeah. It's got to be sensible.
Neil McCarran, in-house designer, said, how do you manage your career expectations after each fight? So I guess with that, how did you manage in the early days when you won each fight? Was it just next one on the list? And how did that differ when you maybe lost a fight that you thought you was going to win?
Good question. It's again, mindset. It's all down to your mindset. When you win, you can't let it get to you too much. And when you lose, you can't let it get to you too much. But when you lose, it hits you hard. When you win, you feel great. You feel on top of the world. And you feel like Superman and bring them on, you know, anyone else. But you've got to always manage that expectation and not get too carried away with yourself, and don't beat yourself up too much. You know, especially nowadays in boxing. I like the way it's going. You're getting prospects wanting to fight each other now. 2 unbeaten lads fought each other on Saturday when I was watching it, and the loser isn't finished and the winner isn't going to be catapulted straight away to any bigger titles. They could have another rematch, but they'll certainly both come again. And when I was fighting, it was the days of Calzaghe 40 odd and all, you know, Ricky Hatton getting to 30 odd and all, and it was about that all. And no one wanted to take a chance, and you fought 20 people who you was expected to win easy. So you've got to not get carried away when you win and not beat yourself up too much when you lose is the sort of the best way I can advise anyone from experience. You know, I beat myself up so much when I lost a fight and cried my eyes out, and it hit me hard the first fight I lost. But I remember winning some and thinking I was better than I was. You learn the hard way.
Adam Beresford, after Callum's defeat and Billy Joe Saunders fighting Canelo to unify the division, what do you think Callum's next steps look like?
I think possibly going up to light heavyweight. I don't think there's any secret about it. I can't come out now and lie and say he struggles with the weight. He doesn't. He does the weight well. He just hasn't really been, in his own words, you know, performing at the best level when he's rehydrated back up. So maybe without realising it, it might be taking a little bit out of him. But he's got a big frame, and it's exciting that he can move up, and he'll certainly hold his own with the light heavyweight. So I think we're going to have one last crack with Callum. Yeah. As a light heavy, I think he's going to go for a light heavy and try and win another world title at light heavyweight for himself, and you know, we'll back him all the way as a family.
COVID's a pain, but do you think he'll get out this year?
Yeah, definitely this year. I think we'll be looking at the summer for him or late September. I mean, we as in the brothers, the family, you know, him. He's the fighter. It's all on him. He wants to fight, and I think, as I say, we should be expecting him probably in the summer or September, depending on what he decides to do. He's got to sit down and decide his own career and his own life and get everything sorted out, and then hit the ground running.
Yeah. Liam Jones, this is an interesting one. What are your thoughts on YouTubers boxing, and what do you make of Floyd Mayweather getting in on it?
It's driving me around the bend in a way where one of them's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
But they're picking their opponents. They've picked an MMA fighter to have a boxing fight. With all due respect to MMA, any one of them in the world would not beat any decent boxer at boxing, just as any decent boxer or top boxer would not beat any decent MMA lad in a cage. It's apples and oranges. It's totally different sports. It is annoying me. It is winding me up. But on the other hand, good luck to them. It's getting people watching boxing that would never have watched boxing. Maybe you're going to get, 5 million extra people watching that. If 100,000 of them then become boxing fans, then that's good for us. And it's good for the boxing industry. And if it's generating money, great. As for Floyd Mayweather getting on it, he does what he wants. He's never been my cup of tea with how he acts and how he is. But I respect the man so much for what he's done, ability-wise and boxing-wise and business-wise. You've got to take your hat off to him because he's done absolutely exceptional for his own career and the career of many others. And he's earned so much money and I can't see him ever losing that money. No matter how extravagant or flash it looks, he's got his investments and he's got his things that are making him money. So ultimately, I don't really like it, but I welcome it until one of them gets hurt, which I can see happening because they're not boxers and they don't know how to do it. And it's a tough game. And all of the stuff what they're saying, getting carried away, they wouldn't last 5 minutes with any decent boxer. That's why they're picking the mark. But it's a show, it's entertainment, and it is what it is. So I welcome it, unfortunately, yeah.
Last question from Mike, Miguel83 on Instagram. Linked to the previous question, would you come out of retirement to fight a YouTuber? And if so, who would it be?
I've always said, no, not at all. I remember KSI come up to our gym when he was talking about wanting to do a documentary on boxing. And I took him on the pads and Callum got in the ring and had a little move around spar with him and just literally tapped him to the body. He'd jump to the floor. It's a different thing. I've always said never say never, but I've always said I wouldn't fight again. But you put £1 million on the table for me to go and fight some YouTuber, then I'm going to go and do a 12-week camp and absolutely punch his head in for £1 million. Who wouldn't? It's all about whatever the offer was. I can't see it ever happening, but if the offer's there, the offer's there. There's people out there who think they can box, who want to box, or people who've got more money than sense and want to pay money to box and get in the ring. If it's all about earning at the end of the day, if there's money on the table that you can't say no to, you can't say no to it. There's loads of people doing it at the moment. I don't agree with the likes of Oscar De La Hoya coming back. You've got plenty in the bank. You've got a successful business. You've got more than enough to occupy your mind. It's ego. It's only ego. And I don't like that. You're coming back and you've got fighters that you're managing and promoting who you can't get on telly, but you're going to come back and go on telly and make yourself 50 million quid when they're just trying to make 50 grand and get on telly and further their careers because they're in the prime of their life. You've had your career. You retired because you had nothing left. And now you're coming back and expecting us to think that you've got something left. But he wants to do it in a boxing, boxing set about actually come back and get his license back or something, or try an exhibition first. It's gone. You'd have to walk away. So linked to that question, it's gone for me. But sometimes if the money's there and you need to earn it and it's there, then you're going to take it. If you don't need the money, I really don't see why you should be going anywhere near a boxing ring for exhibitions like that. Yeah, it's ego, and I don't really like that.
That's the end of the Q&A session. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Cheers, Paul.